As-salamu alaykum, and welcome back to another broadcast of Jenna Loves Allah, SWT, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Yeah, I think that's how I say it. Anyways, I am going to talk today about how women have a duty to keep the men in their lives strong. But before that, I want to thank the people at New Muslims of America for the generous donation of a nice prayer mat and this lovely scarf, which I am wearing as a niqab instead of just a hijab. But I have worn it as a hijab when I've been out on my bike because I tend not to cover my face up when I'm riding because, you get breathing heavy and whatnot. And speaking of which, that's going to take right into what I wanted to talk about. My husband and I were coming from a Christian background when we first got together, so it wasn't an arranged marriage or anything to that effect. We more kind of selected one another, and for a year I put him through rigors of testing to see what kind of man he was. Got him involved in my church and Bible studies. I am a student of psychology, so I was studying not only his words and his behaviors, but his body language and interactions with other people. So, he survived all of that, so I married him. And we've been together for quite some time, and all is well. It's good. It's not a perfect Hollywoodian type of happily ever after marriage, because real life marriages have their conflicts and struggles. But we did do wedding vows like in the Hollywoodian thing, and where he vowed to put my needs and the needs of any children we might have first and foremost. I vowed to follow him on any of his ideas, plans, and life schemes. He tends to always work for himself, and so as an independent entrepreneur, he gets a lot of ideas. Some of them pay out, some of them don't, but my vow was to be supportive of him no matter where he was going to be going with that. And that has really helped us to never fight over some of the choices that were made, because I had already vowed that I would support that. And things are good because of that. But anyways, about staying strong. They say that if the body is strong, the mind will follow. When you do physical conditioning, you develop self-control, self-discipline. And part of the reason why I believe, just from a psychological background and from ex-athletes background, part of the reason why I believe we have our prayers 5 times a day is because the repetition of doing that is a discipline. It's not just that we have formed a habit and are just going through the routines, at least it should never be, but that it's a discipline, especially with the different times that you have to get up early and everything and do it properly. This is what Allah wants for us. He wants us to be diligent. He wants us to work to be the best people we can be. And in a marriage, part of showing respect for one another is being truthful with one another. We're in a PC culture today where people are afraid of speaking the truth or what they think or what they feel for fear of insulting somebody, when sometimes the truth needs to be said. Sometimes the truth hurts. Sometimes the truth is, there as a warning sign when you're going down the wrong path. And if people don't express that truth, then you are basically putting bullets in a gun for the for people to hurt themselves with. So my husband and I are very physically active. Him more so than I as of late. But I still fidget a lot. You'll notice even when I'm on the camera, I don't just sit. I'm moving constantly. My body's all over the place. It's just me, and even these videos are quite short because I can't really sit still. From the time I get up in the morning, I do get up, go straight for coffee, but I'm sweeping the floors, I am moving around, I'm go all day long. And it's just my nature to want to be moving. They say a body in motion stays in motion. That's basic physics, right? So, yeah, I'm like that. Once I get up and moving, I'm up and moving and on the go. And so I don't necessarily go out and work out as hard as my husband does. But my husband also has a sweet tooth, an extreme sweet tooth. So he loves his cookies and candies, and if he wants to indulge in them, he has to go work out. And we have this thing where I will bake him cookies with less sugar from time to time, but if I haven't baked them, then he'll go and buy them. And so my job is to make sure he doesn't overdo it, or when he gets caught up with things, to make sure that he has time to go and do his workout. And I have to, be on his case and support him in that, because he wants to stay fit. He has actually let himself go at one point and was very uncomfortable and unhappy with that. And he was actually targeted by some people who thought he looked a little weaker than he should have. And my husband's background is actually more of a fighter. So despite the fact that he wasn't in the best shape at the time, he fought back, and he spent the following 2 weeks after that limping around, quite miserable. But it was like a wake-up call. It was like Allah let this happen because he wasn't being true to himself. He had let himself fall into a mild depression, and once this happened, he was like, okay, I am not a victim. I am not somebody who gets attacked. I am not weak, and started to regain his physical capacities and what have you. And I was reading up in preparation for this because I like to have some sort of background, either in the Quran directly or the Hadiths, into what I'm talking about, that's supportive of what I'm talking about. And I was pleasantly surprised to find out that there is a quote from Aisha that she and the Prophet, peace be upon him, used to have foot races, and that at one time she could beat him, but then she allowed herself to gain a little bit of weight and he could beat her. So I thought, well, that's just wonderful, because when my husband and I first got together, I was very much a runner. I would run like a 5K cross-country run just for the fun of it. That's how I stayed in shape. And anything more than 100 meters for him was like, forget it. He did not like running. So since the incident I was referring to, part of how he's gotten himself back into shape, is to get on a treadmill and run. I had to coax him into stretching properly beforehand. Now he does it quite readily, but he was hurting himself before I explained that to him repeatedly. Anyways, now he can totally outrun me, outpace me, and it's great. I mean, I look at it as a wonderful thing. Not that I'm getting slower, although I have somewhat, but that he is stronger, faster, better at all these things than I am. Because for me, that makes him a great protector. And one of the things that I looked for when I was looking for a husband was not only somebody for whom a relationship with God was extremely important, but also somebody who was physically superior to me. I'm 6 feet tall. I've been an athlete since I was 12. I see a lot of men, particularly nowadays, as very weak. And it's very hard to respect your partner if your partner shows that kind of weakness. And as a woman, having a partner who is physically weaker than me is just not an option that I wanted to even entertain. So finding somebody who was physically superior was extremely important. I knew that from the get-go, but I also wanted somebody who wouldn't be abusive in that regard. So that meant somebody who was extremely self-disciplined. And I've got all that, and I'm happy with it. And so that's basically, in a nutshell, what I wanted to get at, that there are little ways that we have to keep each other strong, boost each other up. And, you know, Aisha said that she had gained some weight, and then the Prophet, peace be upon him, could beat her. But if he was anything like my husband, he probably started to think about ways of how he could make himself faster in order to be able to beat her, because he didn't want to lose to her. Maybe not. I'm just guessing in this department, but I know that it's always been something that guys don't like to be beaten by girls. And maybe it was a way of Allah showing him that he had an area in his life that he could improve. I also saw that it was written in the Hadith that the Prophet never dragged his feet. He always, everywhere he went, he had speed and purpose in his step. He was a very brisk walker. And it's an argument for keeping yourself in shape, keeping yourself, a physical condition. And I think, our bodies are a responsibility. They're given to us for a reason. As wives, we're supposed to keep ourselves attractive for our husband. Well, one of the ways we can do that is to make sure that we're not falling apart. And although a little bit of weight gain is, nothing to be scoffed at, childbearing will put weight on you. It is possible to get it off again, but it does take work. And that work requires self-discipline, and that's part of what Allah requires of us, is to not make excuses and do the best we can to be the best we can in everything. And you'll find if you do this, your own self-esteem will grow. You'll find that the idea of your husband having another wife, there'll be less apt for jealousy and whatnot, because you're being the best wife that you can be. You're being, you're not threatened by somebody else coming in. You can look at it more as a partnership instead of, or a team player, instead of feeling completely threatened and replaced because you didn't look after yourself. So these are things that you really have to consider. So it's our duty to really take care of ourselves, and part of taking care of our husbands is to keep them strong, not let them indulge in too many excuses, not let them indulge in too many sugars, not let them make excuses. Something that, a little bit of nagging is actually a good thing sometimes. Same thing goes for our boys. If you're raising a son, don't be just that the daughters have to do all the cleaning and looking up after them, because the boys at some point in their life are going to have to go for some sort of training for a job or something to that effect, and they're going to have to clean up after themselves. So teach them how to do it. You're only empowering them to be independent, and an independent person is much better at choosing an independent partner, and two independent partners that get together are much stronger than one who's not. And I do believe I come across another hadith that said that a strong believer is preferred over a weak believer. So keep that in mind, and remember that a part of loving your partner and being the good wife is to sometimes say, no, you can't have another cookie. Let's see if we can do something else. Or make them earn it. Make them do something that's going to burn off those calories, or make it so that it's not a bad thing. Or do like I do and take some of the sugar out when you bake them. Anyways, that's, I know. I was going to say that's it for now. I wanted to tell you, as somebody who's larger, finding gloves that actually fit, and these do, and they're not winter gloves, which is a wonderful thing. It's really, really hard, so I wanted to share with you what they are. They're actually riding gloves, so if there's any of you ladies out there that are considering having gloves and wondering where you can get gloves that actually fit, Amazon is the place I go for everything, it seems. But just look for riding gloves, and hopefully that works for you too. These are an extra large. I have an eBay account, which I'm not selling these on or anything to that effect, but I am using it to help fund my fertility treatment because that is going to be very expensive. And I have started a Patreon account, although I have not yet uploaded anything there. I think I may put a blog on it, which will be a little more intellectual than what I do for the podcast. Just because I don't think that the podcast would be really all that entertaining if I kept it really intellectual, but because I've been to university, I tend to write intellectually, and I can't help it. It's just me. I'm down to earth, but my head's constantly going. If I do any more songs where I have, redone the words to a popular song, then they'll be there as well, because I think YouTube just knocks them down, and this would be a place for people to go to get that. So if you want to support me or help out with my fertility, that's what we can do. See if I've got anything for sale on eBay you might be interested in, or just flat out Patreon. I hate to ask for things, but if Allah puts it upon your heart that you want to do something, every little bit's appreciated. And I thank you much for your time and hope you enjoyed. And until next time, have a blessed day. Later.